podcast. Again, we've got my lovely wife, Brandy, with me here today. You're probably going to see a lot of her. I like her, so figured you like her too. So today we're going to be talking about something that, oh man, get frustrations and anger and all those things. Why we get so angry? Why do we get so frustrated? Why is the question. So a lot of times we think it's like, you got me angry, or I got her angry, or, Heidi's back there, so Heidi gets me angry. Actually, Heidi doesn't get me angry. Heidi makes me look good. So, but it's not any of those things. Like the problem is, like, if I get angry at you, the problem's never you. So what's the problem?
I'm never the problem,
right?
Obviously,
right. Well, you are when you're mad at me.
When I'm mad at you,
right? So, but I'm not really the problem. So what's the problem? Boundaries.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Boundaries. So I like to say that I'm really horrible at boundaries. I mean, I'm never really good at it. I'm always a little. I'm not a boundary expert. But I like to believe and say that you are. I really do believe that you are a boundary expert on creating boundaries with our family, with our marriage, with our kids, with relationships with friends, work, everything. And also, I think you are an expert at teaching other people how to set them and how to deal with boundaries. So I'm going to turn it over to you a little bit. Tell us, like, what are boundaries?
Boundaries are... You have to think of it sort of like a little gate around your heart. Because a boundary is actually, a physical boundary is what notes a property line, right? So if I own property where my line is that you can't cross over and come into, that's the boundary. We also have to have those around our heart to protect our heart, but also to protect other people around us. And a boundary in order for a boundary to work, it has to be made in love. Love is the prerequisite for everything, but especially for boundaries. So because I love you, I'm going to set healthy boundaries with you. And I'm also going to respect your boundaries because it works both ways.
So I'm not going to lie. When this started with me, it pissed me off. Like, I did not like the boundaries situation because, like, I want to come to you and tell you and not do whatever I want, but, like, be able to have you totally accessible to me. Mm-hmm. So when those boundaries were set that I wasn't able to come and, vent to her and do things with her, it upset me. It made me feel like you didn't want me to be around. You didn't want to deal with whatever I had to say. You didn't. So how do you navigate that? Like, how do you? I want you to explain to the listeners how to navigate setting a boundary with a person who's going to be offended by that boundary, like me. Like, I was offended when this first started before I really understood what that boundary was. So how did you deal with that?
Well, let's just use an example. I have things that I have to do during the day. I have a list of things each morning that I go through, and I don't always have to get through each and every one, but, I have a priority of things that I need to work through each day. And a lot of times if you come in, your assumption, I always felt like your assumption was that whatever I was doing was not as important as what you had to tell me, so I should stop. And then I would get offended. And then if I would react in a certain way, then you would get offended. So by me creating a boundary to say, hey, I understand that what you want to talk about is important. I'm in the middle of something. Can you give me a second to stop what I'm doing or finish what I'm doing? And then I can go and sit and hear what you have to say. It's a boundary that you understand is there, but it's also a loving boundary that won't offend you. So I still love you. I just also have this that I'm working on. Can you just give me a minute? And you have to have those with your kids, especially because they will suck the life right out of you if you don't. They will take advantage of everything that they possibly can if you don't. But we also have to remember, especially with kids, that we all have our own responsibilities. And my feelings are my responsibility, not yours. And your feelings are your responsibility. So, of course, I love you. I care for you. I want to be careful with your feelings. But ultimately, I can't be responsible for them. You have to be. So I'm going to try my best to be accommodating to you as a wife and to show you love and respect and all those things. But I cannot be responsible for every feeling that you have throughout the day, all day long.
Yeah.
You have to be responsible for those.
Yeah. So when this first started, I didn't know what to do because I didn't even know what was happening. Like I had no clue what was going on. You had read the Boundaries book, and you were changing, and I didn't know what was happening. So I was offended by that. Now, how do you get me to understand? Like how did you? And I mean, I know this, but I'm saying I want you to explain it for the sake of the listeners. How did you get me to understand? Because I didn't even know what you had done. So I didn't even know the boundary was even there.
Mm-hmm.
Because in my mind, I was thinking we're married, so you're totally accessible to me and I'm totally accessible to you.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, how do you get someone who has no clue what's going on to understand boundaries and what those boundaries are? How do you navigate that?
Well, basically, a boundary can only exist if it's communicated. So I can have a boundary up all day long, but if I don't communicate it to you, then you don't even know that it's there to begin with. So it has to start with communication, where I have to communicate to you, this is a boundary. I love you, but I need you to respect this boundary. Just like with our kids, if we're going to go on a date night tonight, we need you to understand that this is mama and papa time. We're going to have some alone adult time. I understand things may come up, but we need you to respect that this is our time. You have to communicate that to them. And you also have to respect your kids' boundaries as well. They have to learn to set healthy boundaries. I wish I would have learned to set healthy boundaries at their age, then I wouldn't have struggled with it as an adult.
Yeah. So is it safe to say where the anger comes in would be not that you set the boundary and I'm mad at the boundary, but maybe you set the boundary and it wasn't communicated to me and I didn't even know it was there. So I crossed it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that anger builds up or frustration builds up. And over time, if I continue to cross that boundary, but I don't know it's there, then you lash out.
Probably, yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying all that to say this: if that boundary is not communicated, so just in this example, I would cross her boundary and she would get frustrated, but she wouldn't say anything to me, and then that would build up over time, and then a fight would occur. So we set boundaries as adults and as just as humans in general. I feel like we set boundaries, but we usually don't communicate them effectively, if at all. Then that's where the anger comes in.
Right, because the boundary's there. We may not even realize that it's there. We just realize that somebody's crossing it, and we don't know how to communicate it.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this happens a lot. Well, of course it happens a lot in marriage, but I feel like in a healthy marriage, whenever you communicate that boundary, I want to go and help you. So I want to do good. I want to treat you right. Mm-hmm. So I do want to respect that boundary. Mm-hmm. But then on the other side of it, I have to clearly understand what it is and where it's at. And if I do cross it, you have to be, I guess this is where grace comes in with the enormous everyday, everything, every single moment of life. where you have to stop and be like, wait a minute, I'm doing this. I have this boundary set. And just like a little reminder to the person who's crossing it. But I feel like in regular life, or I say regular life outside of marriage, with friendships and things like that, the boundaries are crossed so many times where it's like a guilt thing, right? So well, you came to my birthday party, so I have to go to your birthday party, or it could be, well, my kid invited your kid, so you have to invite. You didn't invite my kid, like, so now, a fight or whatever starts. Boundaries with friends, like how do you set that? How do you navigate that? Is there different levels of boundaries, like,
Well, in order to be able to have healthy boundaries and to respect other people's healthy boundaries, it all revolves around personal responsibility. You have to be able to understand what you're responsible for and what that other person is responsible for. So we all have our own responsibilities. And then there are things, if I have a friend who is struggling, they're sick, or they're going through a really tough time, you want to picture it almost as this person has this huge boulder on their back that they're trying to carry, and it's a burden. It's very heavy. Well, of course, I want to help my friend carry their burden. I want to help you carry your burdens. I think that's why God put us here. So there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with me reaching out to help somebody else carry their big, heavy burden. But we also have our personal responsibilities, and those are the things that we carry kind of like a backpack. And all of our responsibilities are in our backpack. Well, I can't carry yours, because if I carry yours and mine and my kids and my friends and my parents, then I'm way down and I'm miserable and cranky and unhappy. So I have to know the difference between helping somebody carry a burden and something that's just too heavy for them to carry alone, or actually taking on the responsibilities of somebody else that they're more than capable of carrying themselves and carrying it around in my backpack.
Wow.
Because I'll be lugging around a big, huge, heavy backpack full of rocks and that I can't do it.
Yeah. So, man, so I don't know if y'all caught that. So I really want to put some emphasis on this. So you said a load and a burden. So a burden is, like you explained it as the big boulder.
Like a big heavy boulder that somebody
that you normally don't carry.
Because
it's a boulder. Like, you can't even hold it.
Yeah.
It's hard to carry.
Yeah.
And
your house gets
hit by a tornado.
That's a burden, and I'm going to help you. I'm going to go help you clean. You're sick. Well, I can help you. I can go bring you whatever you need from the store. I can cook for you. I can do those things. Those are boulders.
But your load, guys, is something that you carry all the time in a book sack.
Every day. Your load is
like the clothes you put on,
your feelings,
right?
Your chores, your job, your own relationships. I can give you advice on those things, but I cannot carry those every day. If I laid your clothes out for you every single day, and you never ever had to worry about taking clothes out, and then one day I'm not there, and then you don't know how to get yourself dressed in the morning, how am I helping you?
Right.
I'm just enabling you. So you're responsible for those things. Your own feelings are your responsibility. You have to take responsibility for your own feelings. If you see something that somebody says in general, and you take offense to that, and you become so upset and overworked about that's your responsibility to look at it, to say, hey, wait a minute. That doesn't apply to me. I'm not going to let that offend me, and then move on. Or if somebody tells you, no, I can't come to your party, you're responsible for taking that to say, okay, I guess they're busy, or they have somewhere else that they have to go. It doesn't mean that they don't love me or that they don't want to be my friend. They just really are busy.
Yeah.
And then move on.
Wow. So that's really good. Really good. So if for everybody to understand, like, I really want to go and in deep with that because we all know those people who are takers in life, manipulators, and whatever you want to label them as. They're the people who are always, you're always helping, you're always there for them, you always at their party, you're always picking up their kids, you always bringing them food, you always helping them with their bills, you always fill in the freaking blank. But on the flip side, they won't even, many of those people won't even help. Now you're helping them with their load. Now that's your fault.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not their fault. And they become to expect that, and you continue to do that. And then what happens is when you don't do it, they get mad at you. So you continue to do it so you can stay in good graces with them. But in the same breath, those people probably won't even help you with your burdens, not even your load. Because your load is your responsibility, right? Yeah. But the burden, you know, if you're helping someone with their load and they can't even help you with your burden, you need to reevaluate who you're hanging out with and your whole friendship altogether.
Well, the whole thing has to be done through love anyway.
Right.
So you have to look at it as you may feel like you're helping, but are you really helping? Because we tell our high school kids, we use the example a lot, we have to understand the difference between hurt and harm. Mm-hmm. And we often use the example, if I had a friend, if I'm a high school kid and I have a best friend who's constantly asking me to do their homework for them, do my work, can you do my homework, do my homework? Well, I may feel guilty saying no. I may feel like if I say no, I might hurt their feelings. But we can get over hurt. That person can get over hurt. But if you flip it and I choose to do the homework over and over and over, I'm actually doing them harm because in the long run, they don't know how to do their homework. They're probably not going to get a good grade. They may fail the class. So what I thought was helping to avoid hurt actually ends up in doing harm. And so that's where we have to learn the difference between hurt and harm. Me saying no to you may hurt your feelings, but you can get over hurt. But me enabling you will end up harming you more in the long run.
Wow. So. Yeah, so this the way that this applies to real life where everybody can understand is we're parents. Mm-hmm. And a lot of you are parents. And if you're not parents, you're going to want to really listen to this because when you become a parent, you want your kids to do good. You want them to be successful. You want them to like just get in the box and swing out their shoes and, you know, crush a grand slam.
You want them to be happy and successful.
Right. Mm-hmm. But then it's like, and again, I talk about sports a lot. So again, you know, we want the grand slam as parents. Like we want them to go and like, you don't even have to hustle around the bases. Grand slam. But what we fail to understand as parents is sometimes our kids need to understand how to fail. So they need to get, you know, sometimes they have to do a sack bunt.
They may learn more from striking out.
Right. Mm-hmm. They might need to strike out. They may need to sacrifice themselves at first so that they can move a runner over because it's part of a team and it's part of life as what you need to do. You might have to sacrifice right now so you can get what you want later. And you know, we want our kids to make good grades. And listen, we know people that we used to associate with that would go and argue with a teacher because their kids had good grades, but you gave them a C. Because the teacher gave them a C. I mean, they didn't earn a C. Right. You know, the teacher just was like, hell, man, like, you know, shit, I'm going to give you a C.
I got tired of
for no reason. And they argued with that teacher until they manipulated that teacher until the teacher gave the kid an A. Yeah. Now, did that hurt that kid or harm that kid?
Probably
or in the parent, because I know the parent, and the parent looks at it like, what does it hurt? You know, now my kid has this perfect transcript, but it wasn't earned.
And now the kid thinks they can probably talk their way and manipulate their way into whatever they want instead of actually doing
everything,
the work.
And then, or the other thing that happens is the kid goes out into the world thinking that just like you said, they can talk their way out of everything. And what happens is they fall flat on their face. And then when they fall flat on their face, it's not a matter of just A versus C. It might be thousands of dollars that they lose. It might be um, something that's a major, screw up in life.
Sometimes it's jail time.
Sometimes it's jail time.
Yeah.
I mean, you just don't know what the end product could be of it. So as a parent, you have to do that. That's where like there's a line, it's a line. And I mean, look, we go through stuff all the time with our kids, and because they range from 7 to 20 years old, and there's always a battle with something. There's always something that we want to come in and save the day, because that's what parents want to do. But we have to realize that boundary is there on us and on them. That of course, they want us to come and save the day, so they just knock that boundary down, and they're like, "Yeah, just come on in and save me." But I think in the end, you have to understand that: do you want them to succeed? Do you want to do what's right, or do you want them to feel good? And that's hard. Like that's hard as a parent, because we want them to feel good. We don't want them to hurt. We don't want them to cry. We don't want them to feel pain. But then it's like, when you think about it, like, what's the biggest lessons and most successful lessons that you've learned in life?
They all come through pain.
Through pain.
Or failure. Or,
right.
Mm-hmm.
Something terrible had to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, it's 2020. 2020. I had a conversation with someone yesterday that said, I know we're a little bit off of boundaries, but it's relevant, who said 2020, it's time. We got to get over this. Like, I'm ready for next year. And I was like, well, it really depends on your perspective, because some of the biggest lessons that I've learned came through hardship. And some of the biggest and most amazing opportunities came in times of shit, really. Like the shittiest times created the best opportunity. And why? Because I feel like that's God forcing you to see something that you wouldn't have seen if it wouldn't have been in this time.
Yep.
It forces you to get creative. And so when you understand that and you tie that into your kids, then you could set that boundary with your kids and be like, listen, I'm not coming. I'm not saving the day. Like, this is a lesson that you have to learn, and look, our oldest she's an adult, and she makes decisions now that adults make.
Yeah.
But she still hasn't quite got the whole other part of it, where it was like, the whole personal responsibility of being an adult too. So I think like she's caught in that limbo time where she still feels like we're gonna come and save the day, and it's like our responsibility to, but it's not. So parents, if you listen, you have an adult child who's doing stuff, and I know people who have adult children like in their 40s, who their parents are still like, well, he's struggling. Yeah, he's struggling. You know why he's struggling? Because your ass is bailing him out like he's 40. Like he's like, I know one guy's 50 years old. Like, you cutting his, right, taking the crust off his peanut butter sandwich. You can't take the crust off your 50-year-old son's peanut butter sandwich and expect him like he's not gonna listen. It's not gonna be good. So, but when you, I mean, really,
Well, that's why we have to talk about consequences next time.
Yeah. So like, and again, like we're doing a 2-part series on this right here. So basically, we're just going to continue this conversation next week. But what I want you to understand with that is that, again, cutting the crust off your 50-year-old's peanut butter sandwich, that's his load that you're helping him with. It's not a burden. Now if you have whatever situation, like if your adult children, no matter what their age is, has a burden. Man, the engine in my car blew up. I got in a car wreck. I got a divorce. And divorce is even tricky. Be careful with divorce. But a burden, you know what I mean? Like something, my house burned down. My house got hit with a tornado. Something, illness. those are burdens that you could be there, man. Like you could
Absolutely.
really help people, and there's no guilt and shame about it. And I understand you do not have to, but if you want to, you can. I mean, that's a perfectly legitimate reason to help someone. Cutting crust off a 50-year-old's peanut butter sandwich. That's not cool. You're enabling that person to continue living a life of that. Paying their car note. Listen, they're adults. They got a job. They got to be able to handle that. Paying their electricity bill. You know. And again, and then we'll talk about this about taking next time you see us. We're going to talk about taking emotion out of it too. So just for example, like if you don't pay your electric bill, the power company don't get angry with you, and just like a parent would with their kid, right? Mm-hmm. So like if my 13-year-old don't clean her room, and I'm like, you need to clean your room, or you punished, or we get angry and we fuss. As adults, you cannot do that. Take emotion out of it. Take emotion. And that's where we're going to talk about consequence next week. So you're going to take emotion out of it, and it's going to be, well, just like the power company. You don't pay your bill, they don't call you and fuss at you and tell you, how crappy of a human you are, or they don't punish you. They simply turn the lights off.
Right.
And then you get mad at the power company.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the power company's fault. It's your own choice. You make that choice. So anyway, we're gonna close today, and we're gonna pick up next week. So make sure that you like this video, share this video. Brandy, thank you for coming on and talking about boundaries and giving your expertise to that. So as always, like us on Facebook, Instagram, jacobgospel.com. You can follow us there. Go look at all the podcasts. You can rewatch all of our podcasts up on there. Actually, Facebook, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Hit that notification bell, like Caroline says, and share this video with someone who you think could benefit from it. So anyway, we love you. We'll talk to you soon. And this concludes the Jacob Gospel Podcast.